as opposed to now when you pay half attention. First one, Wade.
9.
Now let's go 7 first. I agree, 9 is probably one. Let me just review this with you. When you talk about sequences, children and ladies and boys and girls, the letter N, when you talk about sequences, the letter N is the number of the term. And let us not forget that when you're talking about a sequence, this is the first term, this is the second term, this is the third term, this is the fourth term. And rather than trying to find the pattern that this goes in, they give you the formula for the sequence. And you just need to know that this n, as this sub n is the number of the term. And they tell you what n is. What is n? 12. Okay? So this is what it looks like. And I will say it slowly and clearly. A sub 12. Does anybody know what that means? A subscript is not like a superscript. A superscript we call powers, the top. This is just a way to identify or name this. And the letter A is the amount, or the value. So you really would say this, the value of the 12th term is, and you have to figure it out for yourself here, this was what, n squared plus something, minus 2. So you put 12 in for n, 12 square it, and then subtract 2 from it, and that's what a sub 12 is. You don't put any numbers into this, this is what you're solving for. A sub 12 is, what's 12 times 12? 44 minus 2 is 142. So that is your answer, a sub 12. Is that? Does that help? Do you remember that at all? Mostly not, I'm going to say. Now Wade says number 9. And I'm inclined, is that even on this page?
Yes.
What? Well, I will give you the formula for the bottom of the cylinder. Now you can always use the generic Prism formula, which we talked about yesterday, which is the volume equals capital B times H, right? That was what we did. But with cylinders, you might as well do it. The base, what shape is the base?
Circle.
So it's the area of a circle, which is pi,
Diameter.
no, times radius times radius. You did circumference of a circle. So this is the big letter B, and then you just multiply that times the H. So there is your formula for the volume of a subscript cylinder. I won't do the rest because you should be able to do that. The radius obviously is 10 inches, height is 10 inches. Did I do something wrong? Usually I do. Right now. And now that you've had shading class, you could shade this with little dots or whatever and make it look really cool. Abram said edge. What is the lateral surface area of the cylinder? Lateral surface area, children, is? The lateral surface area of stuff is everything except its, Evelyn?
The formula is pi diameter times height. Oh, the lateral surface.
Well, that was not the question.
The lateral surface area of stuff is the area of just the sides of it, without the two bases. And Evelyn gave the formula. If you're talking about the lateral surface area of a cylinder, this is where your little pi times diameter comes in, because it's the circumference of a circle, which is pi times diameter, and then you multiply that times the height. That would be lateral surface area. Ooh, that's incredible. Oh, we have to talk about this one, because we haven't yet said it. Going back, which we will hit a lot here, change colors. This is what we call a linear equation, because when you solve it, you get a line. There are two types of linear equations. Do you remember from last year what they were?
No.
One of them is, Evelyn thinks it's coming back to her, it is the slope-intercept form.
y-intercept.
which is y equals mx plus b, which this is not. I just wanted to throw that at you. This is slope-intercept form. This is given in, Carteret, what form?
I have no idea.
You don't remember this at all? That is given in, somebody?
Y-intercept.
Nope.
Slope.
This is standard form.
Oh. What's this?
And when you have that, 2x plus 3y is 6. If it's in standard form, you solve it by, somebody said it, the x and y intercepts. Maybe this rings a bell to you. If this is my equation, how do I solve it? I find the two places it crosses the y-axis. Well, one place crosses the y, one place crosses the x. Two different points there. Know what that means. Okay. And how do I find where it crosses the x-axis and the y-axis? Wow, how quickly we forget all this. Avram remembers what?
So you cover up the 3y and put it so it's 2.
2x equals 6, so x equals
3.
3.
yeah, 2 times. So here on the x-axis, add 3, you put a big old fat juicy dot. Then you do the same thing for cover up the 2x, and you get 3y equals 6, Brant, which means y is 3 times what is 6? 2. So where y is 2, you put a dot. And guess what? Now you've got 2 points and you have graphed that line. Standard form.
That is amazing.
We will talk about this one as well. Problem number 12. How do I solve that for the letter x? Now, lest you start to panic, think about, math is all about thinking about what you do in easier situations or circumstances. In other words, what if I change these letters to numbers? What if this was 2x plus 4 equals 8? And I said solve that for x. What would be the first step? Tyler.
Subtract the 4.
Well, it's not a 4, it's a b, but you do that same thing. You say, okay, I'm going to subtract the b. Well, you can't put b with c, so you just write it as minus b. Now my b is gone. So I subtracted my 4, I subtracted my 4. I get 4, now I get 2x equals 4. This is ax equals c minus b. How do I then solve that for x? The last step there would be to do what? Carter Westfall. If I'm solving this 2x equals 4 for x, what would I do? How do I get x by itself? There's a 2 next to it. It is 2 times x equals 4. And
Subtract x.
no. You would do the opposite. Instead of 2 times x, I would, what's the opposite of timesing? Yeah. You would divide by 2, because that gets rid of it here, and I would divide this by 2. Same thing here, except it's not a 2, it's a, so you divide by a, that gets rid of it. This, divide by a, that's all you can do, because they're not like terms, so x then would equal c minus b over a.
Oh, now I remember this.
I'm sure
I
you
really
do.
don't.
I do.
I'm sure
It
you
was like,
do.
this was like the hardest thing.
It was. Now, before Tyler asks his question, we talked about this yesterday, and I said when you see inequalities, the first thing you should think about is, am I going to have to flip that sign or not? I am, because x is negative. You can't have a negative x. How do you solve this though? First, you want to get rid of this 3 by subtracting it. Subtracted 3. So now negative x is less than 1. Okay, here's where the issue comes in. I can't have a negative x, so I need to make it positive. But when I make it positive, this has to change to its opposite, as does this sign. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is, I feel like we've made so much progress today. There's so many more. We probably could talk about every problem here. Tyler?
For number 19, do you do how would you do the exponent on the second part of it? You would just multiply
love
-2
this
times
problem.
squared.
What's that?
Would you just do -2 squared? Because the parentheses always throw it off.
Everybody just take a quick peek up here, because this throws people up all the time. You look at this, and a lot of times people go, there's 2 negatives there, so that makes that positive. Unfortunately, that is incorrect in this situation, because in order of operations, what has to happen? Parentheses, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Well, if we do the parentheses first, there are no parentheses to be done, because the parentheses are already down to a single number, so that really doesn't make any difference. But the next thing you have to do before you do, when you do this times this, that's multiplication, that's right here. Before we do the multiplication, we have to do the exponents. And this exponent says that you have to take a -2 times a -2. Which means this whole thing actually turns into a +4 here with a negative in front of it. And then multiplication, which is what you do when you multiply negative times a positive here, you end up with a -4. So now it's -2 minus 4, we're at this part, you end up with a -6. This is not multiplication when you get to this point, this is addition because of that sign there. 2 negatives, 4 negatives gives you a total of 6 negatives. Did that answer your question? Did that help?
Kind of. How did you get from the -+4 to just negative?
Because I did this part, -2 times -2 is +4.
Yes.
When you put the negative in front of it, which it is, and a negative and positive turns it to negative.
You should record this.
I am recording,
You are?
and you will be able to go, yes. That was Carter Westfall, who wants to watch this all over again.
I love watching half-an-hour YouTube videos.
Yeah,
No,
okay.
you can just go to the website this time. The YouTube video.
It is true.
But it's on the
Subscribe
website.
and like. Do I get money for people subscribing? I should.
If you have 10,000 subs.
Oh, how many more do I need? I think I need 9,965 more. I'm so close. Abram Savage.
How do you get number
8. 8. How much money is Oh, first of all, I realized the word of is, and then I realized that 66 2/3% is
Not okay.
not a great percent, but there's a fraction equivalent to that, which is, no, 1/3 is 33 1/3%. 66 2/3% is the fraction 2/3. So it's just a matter of 2/3 times $36. And that will get you your answer. 66 2/3% is 2/3. I think that's pretty exciting. Are you ready to go on your own? Well, sometimes you got to, look at this, increase 50%. It increases by what percent? This is another, number 4 is another one. It asks you how much it increases, not what percent of it is. I'd be interested to see. Parker.
5.
Oh, I'm sure we did it back in the day. What is the length of C, E, E, F, and FB? Well, all I'm going to tell you is look at your Pythagorean theorem. CE from here to here, this is a right triangle with 5 and 12. Is there a 5, 12 something up there?
Probably 13, yeah.
5, so this is 13. This is a 9, 12. It probably isn't up there because you can divide them both by 3, which gives you a 3, 4, 5 triangle, but then you have to remultiply it by 3 to get 15. And then FB, and then EF, obviously the whole thing's 20 and though it's 5 and 9, so you can figure out what that is. Should not be hard. Got it from there? The excitement never ends. And ladies and gentlemen, say goodbye to the camera.
And that's the game.
Bye-bye.